Okay, welcome to those who've just joined us. I'm going to just post the team formation link in the chat again so everyone has access to it. And know that we start the transition now. This fall season is wrapping up, is completed. We move in, we have a little bit of a break here. And we offer a la carte winter training for those that are interested on Wednesday evenings starting November 30th. That's a skills training session. It's an hour and 15-minute session for the kids. And then we have Sunday night training begins early in January. So on the 15th, I think is our first date together as a pool, 11s and 12s. So we go 15th, 22nd, 29th. And those are kind of our introductory like tryout phase dates where we start to gather registrations and make sure that we have, viable, healthy rosters and are able to start placing children in the appropriate places. As we kind of anticipate looking forward, we would expect to have one full U11 boys team. And then at U12, it becomes questionable whether we have one or two teams. And that just depends on number of children that register. So we kind of have to work with that as we go. There is information on our winter training that's a little bit more specific, and I'll put that link into the chat as well right now. For those who weren't in the U9-U10 meeting, there's some more information just on the Wednesday night skills training, in particular for this group, because that's really all that's relevant, although goalkeeping starts to sneak in as well here for the 12-year-olds for the U12s. So this is really just trying to, inform as a Q&A to help everybody understand or ask questions really about what's it look like at 11 and 12. And the model isn't very different than it was last year. I know that we've shifted back to the tryout phase, but that specifically, to be fair, is really about the U13 and plus teams, particularly even the older teams in our club. And it has a slight effect at 11 and 12. So for those that are returning players, your registration is with BV United. Once you register in the fall, you are bound to the club through the following July until the next cycle. So sometimes we see neighboring clubs having tryouts. Like I think Lakeville's having them in October and Salvo's having them in October. The players that, if someone's interested in going there, then they have to secure release from BV United to be able to go and move to that particular club. That's just information for you to know. The purpose of those tryouts shouldn't be to supplement rosters with outside previously registered community members. It should be for internal roster build up really is what it's intended for. So we're not any different than that. We just do ours a little bit later. So instead of in October, we wait until January begins, and then we start our same process. So I don't know if that model is going to stay the same or is going to have to shift to keep up with the market, who keeps moving things earlier and earlier for whatever purpose, I don't know. But that's what's happening. So we'll begin in January, and then we kind of move forward from there and see what we have in our groups. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to either put them in the chat, or you can, kind of unmute yourself and go. So right now, the boys U12 coach is set, and that will be Hudayfi again, who had the group in the fall. And then I'm working on U11 staffing, and I haven't finalized that yet. We've got quite a ways to go. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask. And sorry, for those that are new in this one, I'm Greg Holker. I'm the technical director at BV United. And then also on this call is Chris Boys, who is the president of our club. And then Hudayfi is here too, one of the team coaches. And so is Jorge Radia, which is awesome, Jorge. So we are here to help answer questions. Chris, if you have any thoughts, feel free to jump in with those.
The only time fill that I would do maybe is if people are thinking about questions is kind of that tryout piece, right? So we thought developmentally, right, as a club, that to not do just a flat tryout model. One day, I see it in basketball too. My son plays basketball as well, and you get a couple of hours in the gym, and people are making those evaluations on that, and we felt looking more at the development and a little broader piece of the season evaluation rather than just having the 1 or 2 day tryout. for the, Greg was alluding to the older kids, and what it amounted to is it's hard to then, we found, get people to then come to the club because there wasn't that classic tryout date, and then people seemed a little bit unsure of kind of how we would get people placed correctly if we didn't do the tryout. So we kind of had to shift back to kind of the movement of the larger soccer world, and I would think athletic youth sports model of doing the tryout. We still take a lot of information from those from the body of work of the fall season, and then the spring season and winter training, and it allows kids to develop, and we'll move them laterally or upwards, or however people think about it, in terms of as kids advance and develop at this age, there's still going to be movement. So we have those base rosters, but we allow for that movement as kids develop. So that's kind of the pieces. People were wondering why we did the no tryout piece. It was trying to think a little bit more broadly, and we still think that's the right way to do it. Just in the way things are set up, it put us, we couldn't absorb the hit that it gave in terms of numbers of not being able to do a little more recruitment, things like that. So we still think developmentally it's the right way to go, but we had to fall in line, I guess, with the bigger piece. So if there was even any questions around that, but I think maybe at the older ranges is a little more noticeable in terms of that there wasn't kind of that hard tryout date that people can get all anxious about, and it's not necessarily a good experience for most people, to be honest with you. So.
There is not. So the question is there a link on the website to request a release? You can just send that directly to me. That can go to director@bbunited.org and say, this is what we intend to do because our experience wasn't what we hoped it would be. And then I'm happy to work with you to make sure that experience is improved either internally or wherever the next phase or step is for you and your family.
I think this is Caroline Hawkinson, and I have two kids in the club, one this level, and then obviously I have an older player. And I think that I always have appreciated the club takes a more open, assessment plan with the kids. I think what's hard is as they get older is I know for my kids, what was hard is feeling like they didn't have tryouts and anybody could just join. And then it was like, well, what's the point of traveling? Like, what's the point of this not just being recreational where anybody can just hop in off the street? And so I definitely agree. I think it's not just about one tryout, and certainly players improve and change. And I think movement is good. I think that I appreciate that you guys are doing tryouts again, because I do feel like there is a difference between recreational and traveling. Like if kids want to play traveling, they want to try, and if they don't make it, fine. I mean, I've told my kids, if you don't make it on the team, you don't make it on the team. You try it out, but I think there was a sense of like, what's the point of doing traveling and committing to this extra time and money as parents if like anybody could just come on and we don't, and from a numbers perspective, I think most of us, I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I've talked to a lot of the parents would rather have a smaller team of kids that play together and are qualified to play at that level than just a huge team where we kind of welcome anybody.
Thanks for your feedback.
I think in the chat room, the second half of Mark's question, kind of the 50% attendance in the fall and improving, kind of getting people to come. I'll speak a little more kind of personally so I have a daughter who plays U18-U19, and I have a son who plays U13 in BVU. And I think my experience has always been fall has always been kind of a rough soccer time at the U11-12 or under U12 age range, where it just seems like that's where kids are doing a lot of other things, and the attendance isn't always as good as people go to other activities and things. And what we try to do is emphasize kind of through winter training and into the spring season, that we do want people to, while we like that people do multiple activities, we do have to have some level focus on getting to practice. So personally, fall has always been a rough soccer period for us, and I have two pretty intense soccer players, and it is really frustrating when people aren't at practice, and it's maybe a lesser focus, and we work to kind of try and bring that back around in the winter and spring. So I wouldn't use fall necessarily as a measuring stick, because I've had a lot of fall soccer seasons between my two kids, and it never seems like it's a very robust experience. And that's not just our club. That is a fall soccer thing, right? As I talk to other clubs and I talk to other presidents and things. So that's what I would offer to that is we would it falls a little bit more of a try it out time period where people will test the waters, and we hope that the winter and spring training kind of tightens up a little bit in terms of people starting to focus more on getting there. So
I also think in conjunction with that we can lay out some framework on the front end for expectations a little bit more effectively. Like at this traveling stage, this is the expectation for attendance. This is the expectation for commitment level. And I don't think we've done a very good job of that. So I think that's something that we can do and help make the experience a little bit better, and just give families an opportunity to understand on the front end what they're getting into, so that they know they can make a more informed decision. A question is, does the winter U11 team only meet on Sunday evenings? Yes, they do. So I think there are, maybe 10 sessions, 10 or 11 until April begins. And then it goes to, the 3 to 4 times a week, depending on what your game model is or what your event model is on a weekend, with a minimum of 3 contacts per week. Those first few weeks of April are always a little bit interesting, just dealing with weather and facilities as we wait for the city to open, and it's all contingent on weather. So 7, help me understand this. You had 7 on that roster size at U10, and different children were coming over, across, or up to join, to play, to make it viable. Knowing there's going to be a few departures, what confidence can we have that U11s won't have different subs for each game again? I don't know that I can assign a level of confidence to that. That's a difficult question to put a number on until we see more registrations or see our data points. And that's one of the reasons why we have like a 3-week window for trials, at least initially, and still some room, because our teams don't have to be submitted to TCSL until like February 10th. And so that, starting this 3.5 weeks in advance of that due date is really important for us to just garner an early registration number, and then to see what we can muster up in the meantime, if there looks to be a shortage or an issue. And that's something that, I don't know that we can really plan on that, at least at this particular time. So we just have to kind of wait to see what happens, and then address it as aggressively as we can if it were to become an issue.
We're never comfortable with lesser numbers, though, right? I mean, we're always trying to, that's not our ideal, right? So we looks like Kate has another question there too around recruitment.
Right.
What we're trying to do as a club is think more about kind of our promotional side of things, right? So do a different social media campaign, get a little bit more, a little bit more of a voice and a vision out there to try and recruit in more from other clubs. There's lots of players that are out there and could come into BVU. So we're going to try and not be quite so humble about, kind of just people will come to BVU because it's the right model, and be a little more active in recruitment in terms of just letting people know about their programming, and that we've got, U13 team and a U14 team that are playing NPL this year, in terms of just reminding people that growth does happen at BVU, and we have top tier teams at those older age groups. So we will work harder, and that's something that frequently comes up in our board meetings as we think about how do we advertise within the schools and within the districts, and how do we get that messaging out, right? That BVU is a club, right? And it's not just all Salvo, Lakeville, and Prior Lake and Egan Wave. So we are cognizant of that fact and working to try and develop a better kind of community presence. And then we'll see what happens. Right? We just don't know.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions here? Feel free to just, pipe it in that chat or chat away here. We've got about a minute left.
And if there's any parents that are in like marketing and advertising, we're always open to creative ideas on how to do those things too. So it's it's the board that does those things, and we're just people and volunteers and trying to figure it out. So if people have a skill set there, we're always welcome to ideas and suggestions and help.
Well, hopefully this was mildly or even more than that helpful for those that attended. Appreciate you taking 20 minutes of your Wednesday evening to spend with us, and feel free to send me any additional questions that might come your way. Again, director@bvunited.org. I'm Greg, and I'm here to help. So thanks again, and everybody have a great night.